Hey everyone, welcome back to another Loose Lagoon Devlog. This time we're putting the spotlight on Brian, who is the art director and level designer behind Loose Lagoon. Brian is also the mastermind behind the design and look of the various islands you get to explore in the game. And while he prefers to stay off camera, I get the honor of presenting his amazing work, which this devlog is all about. But I want to make it clear, although he's created some of the 3D models you will get to see today, a lot of the models were crafted by the rest of our talented art team, so props to them as well. So, every great world begins with a concept, and that's where Brian and the team's creativity really shines. What you can see here is an old design of the overworld map, including the islands it was supposed to contain. There were some really ambitious ideas, like flying pyramids, icy octopus layers, and all kinds of crazy concepts. But as fun as those were, not all of them matched the tropical vibe we were going for with Loose Lagoon, so some of the ideas had to be discarded, or at least put in the backlog for now. In the end, in deciding for the final islands to add to the game, the team focused on balancing creativity, practicality, for example when it comes to the possibility to reuse assets, visual diversity, and some familiar inspirations, like having a jungle-themed island, a very hot volcano-y area, and another that's more focused on water, just like you might be familiar with from Zelda games. Now, let's talk about greyboxing. Once the concepts were locked in, Brian moved into the crucial greyboxing phase. This is where the foundation of each island takes shape, literally. Greyboxing defines the island's overall geometry, making sure the shapes are interesting and recognizable even from afar in the overworld. For example, Tangle Bloom features a unique 5-petaled flower shape, while Buleria hints at its scrap connection with its distinctive pointed peak. This phase starts with the big picture, breaking the islands into broad areas that could be exciting to explore. It's not just about the look, but also about sparking ideas for gameplay. But that was also one of the biggest challenges for Brian, guessing what might come later on, because early on there wasn't much detailed game design yet. So Brian focused on creating areas that seemed like they could host interesting moments, whether a future quest, a hidden secret, or something we hadn't even thought of yet. As the greyboxing progressed, game design and island creation began to work hand in hand. Brian's initial ideas shaped how gameplay could unfold, while gameplay needs also transformed some areas into something entirely different from their original intent. After greyboxing comes island dressing, a phase where the islands really come to life and where each island receives its unique style and personality, turning raw geometry into immersive environments. Every tree, flower, and walk is placed with care to give each island its own vibe and to make sure that it's actually fun exploring. Now, let's take a closer look at each of them. Let's start with Loose Island, the heart of the game and your home base. This island has been around for so long that we don't even have the greybox states anymore. From the beginning, Loose Island was designed to be warm and welcoming, with gentle slopes, open spaces, and lots of cozy little details. The idea was to create a place that feels like a safe haven and that gives a classic tropical vibe but is also full of character. The greyboxing phase for Loose Island was all about balancing functionality with charm, and it took place back in February 2023. In addition to encouraging players to start their first explorations here, it was important to keep some areas of the island open, as this is the central hub for your delivery service, and there should be some open space to build structures and crafting stations, and decorate the island to really make it your own. But really, this is the island that developed step by step over time, as it has been around for so long, while at the same time it is kind of a figurehead for Loose Lagoon. Next up, Tangle Bloom. This island stands out with its petaled flower shape, inspired by lush jungles and tropical blooms. The shape not only makes it visually striking, but also naturally guides exploration as players move through the petals. In the original concept, Tangle Bloom was one really large area. Breaking it up makes it easier to achieve good performance though, even on devices that are less potent. And it also makes it way easier to navigate, and really it just feels so much more cozy. Having that huge open island really just didn't fit the comfortable experience we want to achieve. And the center point, which is a big town, really makes sense, as this is the first place you will fly to after exploring Loose Island, and so we wanted it to be really lively. Originally, there were ideas to have the town as a collective of tree houses, but then it was decided to go more with Mediterranean city vibes, as this makes getting around town easier than it would have been with the tree houses. Fun fact, originally we wanted to make it so that players would have to upgrade their plane to reach new islands, and you can still see the remnants of that. For example, Tangle Bloom was supposed to have big poisonous flowers that blow poison into the air that you first need to clear to land here. But we scrapped that approach to make the world more open and allow you to visit all islands early on, even though you may still need some upgrades to your equipment before you can explore all of the island. But that way, delivering packages is more interesting, as you won't have to constantly deliver between the same two islands until you have unlocked the third one. Back on topic, I think that remnants of this old approach and poisonous plants are especially visible around Tangle Bloom. Moving on to Glewe Reef, which brings a completely different vibe to the archipelago. Originally inspired by dragon motifs with Japanese influences, Glewe Reef evolved into a vibrant coral paradise. Brian wanted players to feel like they'd stepped into a magical realm of neon corals and bioluminescent beauty, and it now has a laid-back but totally funky vibe. Glewe Reef is also a great example of how islands changed over time and how their style changed. For example, Brian originally planned to have roads made of solidified lava on Buleria, the fourth island, that its islanders would use. But they changed location from Buleria to Glewe Reef, then were scrapped in the end, but there are still remains in there that ultimately were the reason why Glewe Reef got its funky groovy vibe. In general, if you look at the old concepts, you'll find that a lot of little ideas have not completely vanished, but instead swapped places. Finally, there's Buleria, a more rugged and mysterious addition to the archipelago. This one is certainly interesting. Did you play the demo yet? If so, you might have noticed that Buleria has something to do with a giant crab. The original idea behind it was to have an island that sometimes is and sometimes isn't there. And back then it was placed on top of an octopus, which changed in the meantime. Greyboxing for Buleria was all about testing how to integrate what is now the conch and its interaction with gameplay mechanics. You can still see that it was originally designed in kind of a volcano shape, but when it comes to volcanoes, you will usually explore them upwards. And that also means that the new areas you explore become smaller and smaller due to the pointed shape. So the team thought of something else, and instead you will now explore the shape downwards, adding bigger and bigger regions. If you want to find out how exactly exploring downwards works, you will have to wait for the game release or some future teasers. Oh, and by the way, each island has their own folk inhabiting it. Did you watch our wholesome snack trailer from back in December? Because if so, you might have seen the inhabitants of Glewe Reef and Buleria as well. Each island in Loose Lagoon brings something unique to the table, from the cozy familiarity of Loose Island to the glowing wonder of Glewe Reef, lush green mysteries of Tangle Bloom, and the charm of Buleria. We certainly can't wait for you to explore them all and discover the stories and adventures waiting on each shore. Which island are you most excited to visit first? Let us know in the comment, and thanks for watching, and we see you next time. Keep soaring high!